Hey guys, this video is just going to be a quote unquote fireside chat. I just want to give you my thoughts on overall how I'm feeling with the motorcycling experience that I have so far, which all told is probably over 2,000 miles on this particular bike. I think we're at 1126 on the odometer. So 1126 on this bike, my first bike, probably around the same. So 2,500 miles so far in less than a year of riding. And I just want to give my overall impression of how I feel towards not just the bikes in particular. Obviously, this is the Ninja 650, but just in general, how I'm feeling about riding. My complaints, my issues in particular, because it's obviously a fun sport. It's great on hot days to get on these things and ride with the wind cooling you down. But there are some negatives, and just wanted to delve a little bit into that. And so that's what this video is going to be, just me giving you my personal thoughts on that topic. So firstly, I guess, I keep on mentioning in previous videos, if you pick up a bike like this, it's obviously a starter bike. You want to get accustomed to the sport. But there's a sort of a natural tendency to think that, okay, I can handle this bike. Let me see what else is out there. And I think that's some sort of a situation that I found myself in, especially with that first bike, and that's why I got rid of it after about 5 weeks. But even with this one at 650cc, that twin cylinder engine, I think, is basically why I just don't feel that this bike is delivering the performance that I know I can get with the 4-cylinder motorcycle. And in this style of bike, sport bike, it's a 4-cylinder will be called a super sport. There's also standard motorcycles or naked motorcycles that also have 4 cylinders, hovers around 900 cc or more. And so I was just thinking to myself, like, if I could go back, obviously you can't use hindsight, because if you go back to the original point of you getting a motorcycle, well, you didn't have that experience under your belt. So you can't miss what you don't know. But at the same time, I kind of wish that I was a little bit more daring, and maybe I did start off with that 4-cylinder motorcycle. Because if you look at it in these terms, that, what do you do with motorcycling? I mean, some of us might actually use this for everyday riding. And if you do that, that's awesome, because you're really getting a lot of riding in, and it's also fulfilling tasks for you, getting you to work, wherever you need to go. Someone like myself, I've got a car. It's a pretty old car. There's no satisfaction there. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I think about the weather. Is it going to rain? If it is, I'm not taking it out. If there's, I always have to plan where I'm going to be riding. I mentioned the performance was one of my so-called complaints. My other one is honestly how I feel on this particular seat. Of course, seats can be changed after market, but man, I find myself consistently and constantly adjusting because of how uncomfortable I feel on that seat. And I'm talking about after just like 30 minutes of riding. So now I think another factor is, how far along you are in life. I'm in my 40s, so I've obviously been through a stage where I kind of want more comfort, and I'm used to that on a 4-wheel driving apparatus. And I guess it's kind of like where you're used to that in the 4-wheel version, and maybe you want that in the two-wheel version as well. I think that's where I'm sort of at this stage, and that's why these performance or these seats issues is sort of taking a bigger focus with me. If you're younger, it really is true that you start at a younger age, and I mean, it's no sweat. I don't think guys in their or gals in their early 20s or late teens, whatever age you want to start, you're not even going to think about stuff like that because just by definition you can handle it. So here's my thinking on how you guys would start. You know, you get your first bike, you got to get over that factor of, hey man, is this really for me? Am I going to be safe? But honestly, you're going to actually discover it's a pretty smooth process, and within literally 100 miles, you're going to be pretty comfortable on whichever bike you picked up. And that just increases every mile after 100. And so to the point where you honestly could handle a bigger engine bike, quote unquote, because all these bikes, and this is, I'm no expert, I'm pretty much still a new rider. All these bikes from stop to like 60 miles an hour all pretty much feel the same. I feel like it's very deliberate, the acceleration. You know, I don't care if it's a 600 Super Sport or even 1,000, like 0 to 60, it's going to have that deliberate acceleration. It's after you hit 60 miles an hour, after you hit 70 miles an hour, that's where those bigger engines really start to shine, and you will notice that difference where you hit the throttle and it gives you ample amount of acceleration to the point where you really got to be careful of what you're getting yourself into at that point. But, you know, I'll put it this way, it would be nice to have that ability versus a bike like this doesn't necessarily have that. So you're gonna want to experience that at one point, and as long as you're not reckless, I honestly think anybody can move up to that stage relatively quickly. So if I were you, maybe just as talking to somebody who's thinking about getting into the sport, somebody who's just finished up MSF, I would do this. I wouldn't mess with the 650, honestly. It's too pricey because you can get a used motorcycle and just ride the you know what out of that. Get everything out of the way with that used motorcycle, like maybe even a 300cc. Actually, that's probably a very sweet spot. You know, just ride it as much as you can. City riding, lots of curves, lots of turns, get it all out of the way. And when you have the opportunity to go on a faster road, you know, obviously pick up some speed, get north of 60, get north of 70, get comfortable riding at those speeds, get used to the wind, get used to the crosswinds, sort of moving you side to side, just get used to that. That's incumbent with all motorcycles. And then, depending on your learning curve, I would literally say move up to a 4-cylinder motorcycle. And I don't think that's being reckless or careless. I just think that there's not really a negative in doing that because, like I said, this is a scenario where you've been riding this 300cc bike in every way, shape, and form. And so you really know the tricks of the trade in the slow maneuvering and just getting your way around that 300. And then when you get on this leader bike or this 4-cylinder bike, what you're going to appreciate is those highway speeds. You know, you just want to be able to zoom out of everyone's path, and that I think is the smartest path, because at the end of the day, you could always downgrade. You could go back to a 600, like this thing is a 650 2-cylinder. You could go back to something like this. You could obviously go to the cruiser style, and you won't really get in trouble with the cruisers. They're just not engineered to give you that ridiculous acceleration. So you could still maintain. But my thought process on it is get it out of the way. You know, experience it while you can. And once you do that, you'll really know where you personally feel towards this motorcycle riding at the most maximum power that they make. You Personally, I've also got back issues at my age, and I mentioned in that earlier video that these handlebars are really a lifesaver for me. The super sports are all pretty low handlebars, and at 5'8", it's just a very uncomfortable sitting and riding position for me that I've basically told myself there's no way I would actually purchase one, because I don't think I would do that much riding to justify it. It would be something where I would have to look. Actually, if you look at Suzuki's motorcycles, they do have higher handlebar sport motorcycle in the 1 liter range. GXR, I forgot what it was called, but it's definitely on the website. You'll actually be able to see the difference in the handlebars. So if I could do it all over again, I think I honestly, instead of getting this bike, would have gone with that Suzuki. And I think it was only around $11,000, so it would have been $3,000 more than this one. I would have taken a hit on the insurance, but it would have been something that I would only do for a year or two. So you just have to eat those costs for the 2 years that you're riding. If I had my druthers and if I could get any bike I wanted to, it would have been the Ninja H2 SX. That also has high handlebars, but it's got a liter engine, 4 cylinders, and it's supercharged, so it's as fast as you can imagine for a high handlebar sport motorcycle. But those are just my personal impressions. I hope you guys just sort of take all this into consideration and sort of plan it in maybe a different way than I did, which was getting a 500cc starter bike, trading that in really quickly, and then getting another starter bike in a sport style instead of the previous standard style, but still feeling sort of the acceleration isn't up to par. And I think if you can avoid that type of scenario where you're thinking about trading into that second bike you just picked up, you want to try to avoid it. So just wanted to share my thoughts. I'll try to put up some more videos the more I'll ride this bike. I definitely want to take this up to the high country where the windy roads are available. And I think as you've probably read online, these 600cc bikes are pretty good for slow speed maneuvering in those curves. And so I'm very anxious to experience that. And as soon as I do that, I'll definitely report back what my impressions were of that style of riding. I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and stay safe out there, and definitely give your next motorcycle purchase some serious consideration.